tonight, investigating the government. The RCMP announcing it's launched a criminal investigation into the Ford government's handling of developing the Greenbelt.
It's really a shameful situation to have the RCMP investigating our government, but it's necessary.
What we know about the investigation and what the government is saying, plus
we know what we want. We just want a fair deal.
GM workers across Ontario walked off the job early this morning, but it was short-lived after a tentative deal was reached just hours after hitting the picket lines. And
challenge assumptions, minimize stigma, and get people talking.
Spreading awareness and support through film as Toronto marks World Mental Health Day. Good evening and thank you for joining us. The RCMP has announced it's launched a criminal investigation into the Ford government's removal of land from the Greenbelt. This comes despite the Premier's announcement last month that he'll reverse course on the land swaps. Our senior Queen's Park reporter Mike Crawley has all the details.
For weeks, the RCMP have been considering whether to launch an investigation into how the Ford government decided which parcels of Greenbelt land it would green light for housing.
Well, good afternoon, everyone.
The Premier was asked in late August about the Mounties possibly jumping on the case.
If they decide to investigate, they haven't decided yet, but if they do, I take it very serious, extremely serious. And I'll have zero tolerance if there's any nonsense going on.
In a statement this afternoon, the RCMP says it has launched a probe into allegations linked to the province's decision to open parts of the Greenbelt for development. To protect the integrity of the investigation, the Mounties left the statement at that.
It's really a shameful situation to have the RCMP investigating our government, but it's necessary. There's something that just doesn't smell right about this deal, and it never has. Now we have a Premier who's under criminal investigation and a government that's spiraling out of control.
In a statement, the Premier's office says, quote, "The government will fully cooperate with any investigation. We have zero tolerance for any wrongdoing and expect anyone involved in the decision-making about the Greenbelt lands to have followed the letter of the law." Since the case involves the provincial government, the OPP passed it on to the Mounties. It's now in the hands of the RCMP's Sensitive and International Investigations Unit.
It's a specialized unit to deal with those most complicated and concealed forms of political corruption, whether we're talking about taking bribes, improper lobbying, or breach of trust, where favorable contracts or other deals are extended to friends or relations of sitting governments.
The investigation comes despite Ford's announcement that he's cancelling the Greenbelt removals.
I'm very, very sorry.
Ontario's Auditor General and the Integrity Commissioner found that developers with connections to the government got an inside track on having their properties removed from the Greenbelt, potentially boosting land values by billions of dollars. Mike Crawley, CBC News, Toronto.
Toronto police are searching for a black pickup truck tonight after a pedestrian was seriously injured in a hit-and-run in North York. It happened near Lawrence Avenue and Allen Road. Meanwhile, across town in Scarborough, another pedestrian was seriously injured after he was hit by a vehicle. That incident happened near Kennedy Road and Shepherd Avenue at around 8:45 tonight. Initially, police said it was also a hit-and-run, but they later updated that information, saying the driver did remain at the scene. Turning to the war between Israel and Hamas now, Israel is stepping up airstrikes in Gaza on day 4 of the conflict there. It's in retaliation for a surprise attack by militants on Saturday. The war has already claimed at least 1,830 lives. Thousands more are wounded. Israel says Hamas is holding more than 100 soldiers and civilians hostage. Israel says it's finally secured its border with Gaza. The territory is under a total siege by Israel, with a blockade on food, water, fuel, and medicine. Morgues in Gaza are overwhelmed, and they're struggling to bury the dead. Aid groups are urging the creation of a humanitarian corridor to bring assistance into Gaza. In the meantime, rockets continue to rain down on Israeli cities. Israel has mobilized 360,000 reservists. Western countries, including Canada, are strongly backing Israel in the conflict. And Ottawa will begin airlifting Canadians out of Israel in the coming days. Meanwhile, we're learning more about Canadians who were caught in the deadly violence. Ben Mizrachi from Vancouver was killed after Hamas militants attacked a music festival in southern Israel. His family is in Israel, where his funeral will take place tomorrow. A federal MP from Vancouver Granville confirmed Mizrachi's death. And yesterday, a Montreal couple said their son, 33-year-old Alexandra Luke, was killed at the same event while trying to save those around him. And back here at home, Durham police have issued a Canada-wide warrant in connection to a homicide in an Oshawa home earlier this year.
He is actually currently on charges for a violent sexual assault, and part of that release was that he had to wear an ankle monitoring bracelet. Investigators do have information that he's cut that bracelet off.
You're looking at photos of 37-year-old Josh Bickle. He's wanted for second-degree murder in the death of Amar Jawade. Jawade was found dead after a house fire in Oshawa on March 6th. Investigators are urging Bickle to turn himself in. Anyone with information is asked to contact police. And just hours after walking off the job, workers at 3 GM plants across the province are already back to work. They were on strike for a little over 12 hours before their union reached a tentative deal with GM. Greg Ross has that story.
Unifor is very happy to announce that we have reached a tentative agreement with General Motors following a 12-hour strike.
Unifor National President Lana Payne made that announcement this afternoon, just hours after workers hit the picket lines at the General Motors Assembly Complex in Oshawa this morning. They were among the 4,300 workers that officially went on strike at plants in Oshawa, St. Catharines, and Woodstock.
We're all on the same page here. We know what we want. We just want a fair deal.
The union believes the new 3-year tentative deal is fair, and most importantly, one that matches the deal Unifor was able to secure for workers at Ford last month.
General Motors had been resisting a number of elements in this pattern agreement that we had established with Ford, including pension improvements, supports for our retirees across the GM chain, and significantly, what was going to happen with temporary full-time employees who we felt deserved permanent employee status.
Another key element was wage increases. Payne says the new tentative deal has the greatest wage increases that have ever been bargained in the auto sector in Canada.
The starting rate will go to just under $30 an hour, and by the end of the collective agreement with COLA roll-in, which is cost of living support, it'll be at $46 an hour plus for production workers, and much higher than that, obviously, for our skilled trades members.
She says they have also created a pathway for temporary workers to secure full-time status.
Over the 3-year agreement, all of the current full-time temporary workers will be transitioned into permanent status, which is huge.
Many workers were happy to leave the picket lines and head back to work this afternoon.
It was a matter of hours. I mean, we were thinking days and weeks, but again, it was great that we were able to organize and help one another and figure things out.
Unifor will now bring the tentative deal to its members, who will vote whether or not to accept it over the next few days. Greg Ross, CBC News, Toronto.
All right, let's head outside with a live look of Toronto. Some light rain in some spots of the city. We're sitting at around 8 degrees. With more on that, we'll bring in Colette Kennedy for your first look at weather. Colette, it feels like things got kind of cold really fast.
Yeah, that's right, Angelina. You could call it sweater weather for sure, or if you're like myself and others, because I did see them out there, I pulled the toque out this weekend. Some of the early mornings a little bit chilly, or the later evenings, right? Especially when this is what it looks like for our daytime highs. So we go from way above last week and now a little bit below normal daytime highs. And along with that, that area of low pressure to the north, and we get this counterclockwise circulation around that across the lakes and lake effect rains. And although becoming a little more intermittent, especially through the GTA along the north shore of Lake Ontario, through the Niagara region and back along the north shore of Lake Erie, a better chance of it just being a mix of sun and cloud with an isolated shower, but it's more of scattered showers in the forecast tomorrow, a little little bit further to the north and to the east as well. So we got to hold on to this pattern for kind of another day, and then we do get into some improvement, albeit a bit short-lived. Overnight tonight, 8 will be your low, and yes, we should hit normal for this time of year with that daytime high for tomorrow. Thursday's looking good, but then we've got another system we have to start talking about. I'll have all the details coming up, Angelina.
All right, we look forward to that. Thanks, Colette. And starting today in Toronto, seniors, Indigenous people, and those with health conditions are among those eligible for the newest version of the COVID vaccine. That's as public health is getting ready for the expected fall spike in respiratory viruses.
COVID activity is increasing, and that's why actually getting that updated vaccine will help to boost all of us who are 6 months and older to prevent us from getting very sick. And in some, it will also prevent them from getting sick at all.
The vaccine will be available to everyone at the end of the month. The province says COVID rapid tests will be more readily available through the fall and the winter. And today marks the 75th anniversary of World Mental Health Day, a day created by the World Federation for Mental Health to help people understand and support mental health issues across the globe. And here in Toronto, a group is raising awareness through film. Tonight marked the unofficial start to a mental health film festival at Hot Docs Ted Rogers Cinema on Bloor Street. Our Anam Khan was there.
A sold-out show at Hot Docs Cinema. 650 people awaiting to watch Attila, a special presentation of the Rendezvous with Madness Festival, billed as the first and largest arts and mental health festival in the world.
A film like this is extremely important, especially in Toronto, where we have to face so many mental health issues, especially after COVID, with all the things that have happened during that time to our families, ourselves.
The movie tells the story of Attila Kasani, a 28-year-old man found dead on a Hamilton rooftop in the peak of the pandemic in 2020, and how he struggled with addiction, schizophrenia, and homelessness.
He sadly passed away after years of kind of falling through the cracks of, various systems, being put into a very abusive home and foster care between 6 and 8.
Stephen Hosier says he was best friends with Kasani and his twin brother. He says Kasani's story is an important one to tell.
There's so much that Attila's story represents in terms of, mental illness, homelessness, child welfare, the opioid crisis.
His story gives a better picture of the quality of mental health in Canada, this advocate says.
Every province in this country is failing its obligations under the Canada Health Act to provide accessible, comprehensive mental health care for all.
He says more needs to be done. Today, the Ontario government announced an expansion of mental health services across the province, but Mark Hennick says that's not good enough.
Wait times for a wide range of services are still far too long. The quality of care that you get, unfortunately, is only loosely regulated.
Even with improved services, society's perception of mental health needs to change, advocates say. The CEO of the Schizophrenia Society of Canada says one of the most challenging aspects of mental illness is how society responds to it, which is illustrated in Attila.
In this case here, we see Attila, who suffered as much from society's lack of compassion and care towards him and his illness. And really, all people really saw in him was the illness.
He says sharing stories like Attila's help raise awareness of the difficulties those coping with mental health issues face. Anam Khan, CBC News, Toronto.
Welcome back. Some road closures to tell you about thanks to the city speeding up work to install streetcar tracks on Adelaide Street. The intersection of Adelaide and Yonge Street is now fully closed to drivers and cyclists. The shutdown will last until 11 p.m. on Friday. Once the full closure is complete, the intersection will reopen and Adelaide will remain reduced to one shared travel lane. And beginning next Monday until mid-December, the intersection of Adelaide and York Street will be fully closed to traffic also for TTC track installation. And a new season for the Leafs begins tomorrow, and to celebrate, a flag-raising ceremony was held outside of City Hall today.
There's been a lot of change this year. New leadership, new players, and I know we all hope that it will lead us to take the next big step and finally lift up that Stanley Cup.
Leafs legend Daryl Sittler joined Mayor Olivia Chow for the ceremony. The Leafs are coming into this season once again with high expectations. Coach Sheldon Keefe says he believes in the core players to lead the team to success.
There's been some maturity in there for sure, as they've gained more and more experience, but also more and more, disappointments or failures at different times. Yet, we obviously found a way to win a playoff round last year, and I think you grow a lot inside of that.
The roster was finalized yesterday, which included a surprising call-up. 2022 second-round pick Fraser Minton cracked the roster after making a strong impression in preseason. The Leafs' journey begins tomorrow with their home opener against Montreal. And whether it's a Leafs game, a Raptors game, or a concert, Scotiabank Arena holds a lot of history. And while that's being honored, MLSE is making room for some new ideas. Today it unveiled the Scotiabank Arena Reimagination Project. Phase 1 of the $350 million reno was completed this summer, and there's more on the way. Dale Manukduk shows us what's new.
Scotiabank Arena has had its moments. Long before this past weekend's temporary makeover for a pair of Drake concerts, Half Man, Half Amazing was taking flight at the Air Canada Centre.
Takes it to the right.
For this nearly 25-year-old building, it's time for a permanent upgrade. That's why Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment is shaking things up, pouring in hundreds of millions of dollars to modernize the fan experience.
Fans' expectations are evolving, and we need to deliver an experience that, frankly, is in keeping with the market that we have the privilege of operating in downtown Toronto.
Completed this summer was a remodel of the executive suites. The new MasterCard Lounge has a capacity of 205 and comes with all the fixings. In the 200-level hallway, 90 pieces of art from 34 artists, mostly local, are on display. This one was inspired by the weekend's blinding lights.
It's off to Leonard.
Others highlighting the most iconic moments in the venue's history.
Is this the dagger?
3 Leafs portraits were done using a hockey helmet, puck, and stick to paint with.
With a helmet, I use the visor, I use the string that you tie. The strap, that's it. For most of the small parts and the little crevices, which is pretty easy. I get very creative.
Down low on the 100 level, there's a new grab-and-go food and beverage experience. Fans can tap their credit card to enter a self-serve convenience store-like area and shop for alcoholic and non-alcoholic beverages and prepared food.
We want our fans to enjoy more of the game or the concert. So to be able to just come in and leave is a revolutionary way, and I think you're going to see more of these kinds of technologies in the Canadian market.
But wait, there's more. After the 2023-24 season is complete, MLSE is doing a full makeover of the 100-level concourse. This could be you. Go Leafs, go! All right. That phase will include more grab-and-go concession, an expansion of real sports apparel, and the addition of gender-neutral bathrooms, among other changes.
Our owners are investing every year in our business, whether it's sort of our physical venues, whether it's technology. Those sorts of investments don't tie directly into ticket pricing.
MLSE evaluates pricing every year, and that's based on demand and the market. Dale Manukduk, CBC News, Toronto.
Come back, let's bring Colette in for our long-range forecast. Colette, it's feeling more difficult to get going in the morning with the cooler weather, and also because it's still dark when my alarm goes off.
Yeah, you really do feel like those days are getting shorter, especially when it's dark for later in the morning. And that's where we are. We've had the rain, we've got cooler conditions, breezy conditions, and then looking at just when our sun is rising. So for tomorrow, 7:26. Then a week later, 7:35, about a 10-minute change. By the time we're to October 25th, it's at 7:45, and then there we are for November 1st, 7:53. Of course, keeping in mind that a few days after that is when we will be falling back and setting those clocks back, so it'll all kind of change again, get dark in the evening so early. But you see how things really start to drop off here with our daylight hours as we head through the month of October. Along with that, we have a very stubborn area of low pressure with that counterclockwise circulation. We get the lake effect showers. At least the change in wind direction, although the wind's still a little bit breezy, does change the areas, essentially seeing them. But Mix of sun and cloud tomorrow, Toronto. Some isolated showers certainly possible. It really becomes nicer back into southwestern Ontario, and then more wet weather kind of scattered through the day to the north of us. Then as we roll into Thursday, we see a system just to the south of Windsor. You'll get the cloud cover, hopefully stay dry, but that'll be kind of the nicest day of the week through the GTA before that next system starts to come in. That's going to impact our weekend again, coming up this weekend with wet weather. So those winds, yeah, they're still at least sustained at a significant click, kind of around 25 kilometers an hour. That's through tomorrow. But Thursday, another reason why it's kind of the nicer day of the week, that we see things backing off at the winds as well. Still, some of the more significant rain is further north. Those overnight temperatures, Kingston off the lake, with that breeze will help hold that temperature. That's at the airport anyway. A little bit away from the airport is going to feel different. And then Thursday, look at us. Looking good until that rainy, windy Saturday coming our way, Angelina.
All right, mentally preparing for that rainy Saturday. Thanks so much. And finally for us tonight, a little bit of Canadian broadcasting history has gone silent. The longest running segment on CBC Radio went off the air yesterday.
The National Research Council official time signal. The beginning of the long dash indicates exactly 1 o'clock Eastern Daylight Time.
The National Research Council time signal was first heard on CBC on November 5th, 1939. It aired every day for 84 years. A CBC spokesperson says the expansion of CBC broadcasting via the internet and satellites can create delays, leading to concerns about the accuracy of that time signal. And that's our show for you tonight. Thank you so much for watching. Maribel Tarouk has your next local newscast tomorrow at 6. I'll see you back here tomorrow night at 11. And you can always catch your news online at cbcnews.ca. Thanks so much for joining us, and have a good evening.